How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the White Belt MMA podcast, and I'm honored to have Bellator fighter Daniel Carey on the show. How you doing, man? How you been?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good, bro. Pretty good. Yeah, man. So, this is the one thing I always love, like when I get fighters on here, is to, to know about their story, know about how they got into mixed martial arts. For some people, they start at a young age, other people, they start later. So, for you, what was it? Was it you started doing a sport at the young age, like, for example, let's say wrestling, or you kind of just, found someone along the way that kind of taught you the ropes and then got you into the sport later on?
I wish I would have started younger, but well, technically, I started Muay Thai when I was 16
Mhm.
in California. I was training at a place called Pacific Ring Sport. I trained there for 8 months, had I think 9 smoker fights. Moved to Oklahoma, didn't train for a long time, like 6, 7 years, something like that. Ended up meeting one of my buddies, had a few amateur fights, took 5 years off again. Then like 8 months later started jiu-jitsu. 8 months later had my first pro fight. And that's pretty much where I got into MMA.
And that's really crazy because it's like one of those things. It's like, let's say, for an average person they would take time off, and then for most people they would never get back to the sport or get back into combat sports in general. So for you, what was it though? Was it just the competitive edge that you're like, I'm gonna give this another shot? Or what, it was one of those things that you're just kind of like, you know what, like, I'm gonna take a break, and then after that, I know I'm eventually gonna come back to it. It's just, it has to come back at the right time.
Well, where I was at in Oklahoma, because I moved from California to Oklahoma.
Mhm.
And when I lived in Oklahoma, I won a few national championships.
Mhm.
Uh, really, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Kevin Rayford, because without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because he kind of got me back into it. But to kind of go into that, well, I took a long time off. I had 3 kids, working in a factory, and hating life. I know that sounds crazy. So I was making good money, but I was working like 12-hour days, and it was just hectic. Dealing with people in a factory is a hard mental thing to
Yeah,
do.
I can imagine, man.
Yeah. And my buddy Kevin, he started training at this place called Conquer BJJ, and then he talked me into going. And then once I went, I started going every day. And after a few months, my wife was like, well, maybe you should like go pro because you're beating up all the amateurs. So I went pro, made a little bit of money, had a few more fights, made a lot more money. And then it was like, we need to go 100% in this and quit and really focus on the MMA career, because I'm making pretty good money now.
Yeah, and like, how was that transition? Like you said, like you started Muay Thai at 16, and then like your friend got you back into jujitsu, and obviously, two different things, grappling and striking. So
Oh
how
yeah.
was, yeah? So how was it? Was it one of those things like you walked into that gym and you're like, you kind of had like the Muay Thai experience and like, from like way back in the day, so you were like, man, I can handle these dudes, and then so that like, they just strangled you into a pretzel, or it was one of those things that you're just kind of a natural and it just kind of, you're just kind of like on day one, you're like a sponge and you just kind of absorbed like everything that like the teachers were teaching you.
Well, in the early days when I was training, they did a little bit of jujitsu in there, and sometimes I would go grapple with them, not knowing anything. Like I didn't know nothing. I didn't even know how to shrimp, and but I would go get submitted and stuff. So I kind of had an idea that like what jujitsu was about. And my first 2 grappling tournaments I went to, I actually got choked out by like X chokes and triangles. It was, I mean, one of them I was unconscious, which was great, uh, because I didn't think jujitsu worked, and
Yeah, yeah.
like I punch people, you ain't gonna grab me, and then that's a rude awakening when you wake up. But anyways, my buddy talked me into it, and I had a little bit of experience, so I knew what to expect. And from there, I think I got my blue belt in like 8 months, something like
Mhm.
that, and ended up going pro. The transition's hard. I would say wrestling was my is what I have the hardest time fighting takedowns and going for takedowns. But
Mhm.
as far as just grappling goes, I feel like I'm a stud.
And like, do you have a preference? Because obviously, I know for MMA, no gi jujitsu, it would benefit a lot more if you did no gi. But do you have a preference? Like, if like, do you like gi just for like the like the technical side of it, or it's kind of like for you, just kind of like jujitsu, like whatever I do, I don't really care.
Yeah, well, whatever I do, I don't care. I mean, I prefer no gi, I guess, because it kind of helps with my job, which is MMA. But
Mm-hmm.
gi has, I mean, it's fun, man. There, it's all fun. I enjoy it all, but I would say I would lean towards no gi for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then to bring it back into your MMA career, man, like you said, you had a couple fights, and then it's that you finally got the call from Bellator. So, what was your mindset there? Like, were you kind of like shooting for Bellator, or it was kind of one of those like whatever promotion called me, and you're like, I'm game. Like, I'm there on like let's say 2 day notice or anything like that. So, what was your mindset when you got that? And like you said, it's like with Bellator that meant more money. So, yeah, what was your thought process through that?
Well, my first Bellator fight, I was working at a place called Ada Nissan, and I had just fought a few weeks before, or maybe it might have been a month or something, but I had an injury
Mm-hmm.
in my neck. I had pulled something, so I wasn't doing anything. And I think normally I fight at 170 or 145, sorry. And I was walking around at like 75, and I'm not a cut 75, like a chubby 75, and didn't think I'd be fighting. And then they call me and they go, "Hey, do you want to fight this weekend?" And I was like, "Yes." As soon as I heard it was from Bellator, I said yes. I didn't know opponent, weight, none of that. And then with 5 or 4 days notice, I said yes. But the only catch was I couldn't make 45. Like there's no humanly, it would
Mm-hmm.
be impossible at that time. So they made a catch weight at 50, and then I made the weight and fought, and it was the most tiredest I've ever been in a fight. It was horrible. But after that, they started inviting me back, and then I eventually got a contract.
Oh, so like it took a couple fights for you to get that like multi-fight contract, correct? Or
Oh yeah.
it one of those like what like you said. So like how was that? So after your first fight, was it just in your mindset that you're like, hopefully they call me back in this point? It's like I'm gonna like make sure that like my performances are at a high level that like they're eventually gonna have to give me a contract, or it was one of those that like if it comes, it comes.
It was well, after that first fight, because I took it short notice.
Mm-hmm.
The main promoter there, uh, well, I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want to get a bunch of people messaging him, but the
Mm-hmm.
main promoter there, he told me he'd have me back the next show since I took it such short notice.
Mm-hmm.
And he likes the way I fight and stuff. So I was like, oh hell yeah, bet I'll be there. They called me the next show. I fought Kevin Williams. I think, yeah, Kevin Williams, and he was like supposed to be this next big thing. And I beat the shit out of that dude for 3 rounds. And then they just kept inviting me back. And then the fight with Gaston, I beat Gaston, and then I got the 3 fight contract, and Pico was my first one on that 3 fight. But I kind of always figured I would end up
Yeah.
getting a contract. I just had to keep saying yes and then keep fighting whoever they put in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, so like and it's one of those things, it's like as you're going through your fights and everything like that. And like you said, you mentioned before that you worked at a factory. So I'm guessing like it was, for most people they want to follow their dreams, but like they don't want to like pull the trigger and actually do it. So for you, like, as you're going through your Bellator like, fights and all that, so like what's your mindset? Because like do you ever have like a moment that you just kind of soak it in, you're just there like it's crazy like where I'm at now compared to where I was a couple years ago and how so much happier that I am now. So does that ever
Right.
go through your mind, or is one of those things that you're like, everything just moves so fast that you're like, it would next fight, and then I'll worry about like soaking it in later.
Well, I was really soaking it in with the Gaston fight. It seemed like for some reason that they flew me out to San Jose like a week before for
Mm,
like media and all that type of stuff. And the whole time, my coach is just reiterating, enjoy the moment, enjoy the moment, enjoy the moment. And that was the best I've ever felt going into a fight. During the fight, like everything was just spot on, man. And that fight was the only one yet that I've like just enjoyed the process. With Pico, I feel like I was just forcing it. Uh, I made mistakes in that one, which caused me to lose, but I was too much in a rush for everything. I should have just laid back a little bit and just accepted everything and went with the flow.
mm.
But yeah, well, I feel like I just got off your question big time, but
No, 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 you're good then,
uh,
man. You're good. It was just like I said, it's like I was asking is like have you soaked in the moment? Like have you kind of gone into like those moments that you're just there like like it's crazy where I'm at now compared to where I was a couple years ago, and it's how so much happier I am now, like
Oh yeah,
doing what I love.
yeah. Like 5 years ago, I would have never guessed this is where I would be.
You know.
In Fort Smith, Arkansas. Anyways, I would have never guessed. Not in a million years.
Yeah, no, and like I mean, dude, like I find that so admirable too, because it's like I said earlier, it's like so many people have dreams, so many people have aspirations, but they don't want to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? They're stuck in in that 9 to 5, miserable. They're like,
Oh man.
it's making me money, but I'm not doing what I love. So like for you to actually pull the trigger and actually follow and do something that you love and as a career, I find that so admirable, and I'm pretty sure everyone watching this will do as well. So in terms of your future, man, like do you have any fights like set up with Bellator? Because I know Bellator's, they got back on track, they're putting on events now. So are you in talks for another fight, or are you in talks to like do like other stuff?
Well, I have a fight February 6th. It's a kickboxing match here in Fort Smith. And then after that, I'm going to start messaging Bellator and try to get on one of their cards.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like with Bellator, like I mean, obviously, like if you can't talk about it, it's all right. But like with
Yeah.
Bellator, is it kind of one of those things that's like it's kind of like back and forth, like whenever you're ready, you'll let them know, or where Bellator just kind of like give you a call, like let's say out of the blue, and they're like, oh, you got to fight in 4 weeks.
Man, usually it's out of the blue.
Mm,
And I think they call me when no one else will fight somebody, it seems like, because I say yes, but um, I'm assuming I got to message them, you know,
mm,
but usually I get a call. It's just one of those things. It's back and forth. I got to message them. They message me when they need somebody, stuff like that.
that's
But
awesome.
my main focus is February 6th right now, and that's that kickboxing fight.
And that would take place in Arkansas, correct?
Yes, sir. Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Are they streaming it anywhere? So like anybody like watching it, or like anybody in the area, like they have like a specific site that they can go and get tickets and watch?
I think Fight TV. I could be wrong on that. I know it's there's like they're only selling so many tickets.
Hmm.
It's gonna be like a closed event, but they should be filming it. It should be on YouTube at some point too on Max Fighting Championship.
No, definitely, man. So I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. And like, dude, before we finish off, like, I always like asking this to all my fighters that to all the fighters that do come on here is like, at the end of the career, like at the end of their career, like, what do you want to be remembered for? So, you, Daniel Carey, like, what do you want to be remembered for? Like at the end of your career, like, let's say, 10, go 10, 5 years down the line, like,
Mhm.
what do you want to be remembered for? And then it's for like families and friends, like what do you want them to remember you for, whether that be in your professional or personal career?
Uh, well, to my family, anyways, I just want to be known as like a good guy, hard worker, stuff like that. Which I feel like I pretty much got that now. But career wise, man, I want to win a world title. That's number one right now. And coming off a loss, I know I got quite a bit of work to do, but I'm hoping the next 2 years, possibly I can get a title shot. I mean, I know it's not going to be easy, but that's what I want to do. That's the goal right there, is that world title.
Definitely, man. And I mean, I'll definitely be rooting for you. And like I told you earlier, man, like, I mean, your story is so admirable because, like, for me, like, I want to get into, like, my dream is I want to get into broadcasting media or be a reporter, talk to you guys. And like you said, like, I really appreciate the time for you to, tell your story because, like, that's one thing that I want to do. And, eventually I want to be covering Bellator fights, UFC fights, all type of MMA fights there.
Right.
So seeing your story just, motivates me to just keep on grinding and keep on going. So, like I said, I know a lot of people watching this will do as well. So, Daniel Carey, before we go, do you want to plug in your social media so they can go and follow you?
Yeah, on Facebook, it's Daniel Scary Carey. Go ahead and go like my fan page, please. I definitely would appreciate it. And then on Instagram, it's Daniel Scary Carey MMA.
Definitely,
And
man.
that's it.
Definitely. All right, Daniel. Once again, thank you for your time, and then for everybody watching, peace.